I believe every human being was born to be great. I believe no human being wants to be mediocre.
All I can say about Jay is I've known him for 35 years, and for 4.5 decades, he has been the go-to guy to optimize your business.
Jay is one of the top people on the planet who knows how to maximize a business and its reach to his customer.
You're watching Strategic Edge with Jay Abraham, exclusively on ASBN.
Welcome into another edition of Strategic Edge with Jay Abraham. Jay, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule, globe hopping, helping companies all over the world in terms of building their brands and their bottom line. So we're so happy to have you with us here at ASBN.
Thank you.
So thanks for joining us. Let's jump right in here. The title of this is Mastering Non-Technical Breakthrough Thinking, and I know that you are passionate about this particular topic. So, Jay, when people hear breakthrough thinking, they usually picture some kind of technical genius or specialist, but you're talking about something totally different. What does non-technical breakthrough thinking actually mean, and why does it work?
Well, most of my life has been dedicated to it, and there's billions and billions and billions of dollars, not just of revenue, but of profit increases that affirm what I'm about to say. So you're right. Most people, when they think innovation, when they think breakthroughs, they think of complex, expensive, tectonic type of technologically driven activities, and those can be, but the rarity and the success for people is very, very low, and it's very expensive, time-consuming, etc. But within any business, and I'm going to talk first about the area I focus on, but then I'm going to expand it so it's just unimaginably stimulating. Within every business, you look at the revenue side, and I've done lots of work, you have what's called a revenue system. It can be very sophisticated, it can be very basic, it can be very, very unacknowledged. If you're a company, if you're a store and you're in a strip center and you don't spend a penny on marketing, then basically your whole strategy is to draw from the traffic and hopefully engage people when they come in, and engage people in your window, and engage people with your decor so that they will either buy or they'll keep coming back. But you don't think about that you have a very either sophisticated or basic revenue system. If you start analyzing it within that revenue system, I'll go macro, then I'll go micro. First thing is you have an audience that you are targeting consciously or subconsciously, knowingly or unknowingly. You have the way you are targeting them, meaning the mechanism. It can be an ad, can be just a nice window, it can be a booth, it can be cold calling, it can be distributors. You have the proposition you are making to them, and within that proposition, the action you want them to take, whether it's to make a direct purchase, to have a consult, to do an impact analysis, to come to an event, dinner, whatever it is. Then you have the transactional process. Within that process, you might have optionality, which could be different size type combinations, or you have repeat, or you have upgrades, and I go on, but it's infinite. I mean, the average revenue system, if you take the KPIs everybody thinks about, which I'm getting a little bit ADD, but a KPI, Jim, is a historic representation of something that already happened. I live in the world of trying to stop the negative from happening, and there are an enormous number of what I call OPIs. Those stand for overlooked performance impact factors, and what they do is they are the bridges, they are the transmissions, they are the torque converters, they are the bi-turbo or superchargers, they are the nitro that drives much higher potential performance. I'm getting a headache, but the point is, whether it's in your strategy, whether it's in your business model, whether it's in your marketing, whether it's in your distribution and sourcing approach, whether it's in your value proposition, whether it's in how you use capital or human capital, whether it's improving a process, a system, a procedure. Each one of those and a myriad more have within it a dozen levers. So you got all these leverage points that cost you nothing to improve. It just costs you knowing what to do different.
Right.
We had actually a website years ago called Small Moves, Big Profits. It was about just knowing how to move the needle by shifting something. And you know this because I've talked about it on these shows and before. I live in the world of variability. People do not understand. You could do something one way, you can say something one way, you can offer something one way, you can position something one way, you can prove your case one way, you can justify it with peer confirmation one way or another way, and the differential in each of those areas, not just the combination, can be doubling, redoubling. There's such power in understanding that you don't even have to get to breakthroughs yet. We have a new book I'm working on, and it's all about non-technical breakthroughs, and it's got all these universal principles, and it's got an appendage at the end that says, now I'm going to talk to you about AI, but I'm going to tell you one thing. AI will multiply the multiple you're getting from all the other things, but you don't even have to get to AI. You do all these other things first, and you just bring so much more profit to the bottom line. It goes towards the thematic focus I've been talking to you about. You want to amplify the yield you get out of what you already do, who you already do it with, how you already do it, where you already do it, the people that are doing it with you or for you. That's a complex answer. I hope it makes sense.
It does. It does. How did you personally start building this skill? Was this something that came to you naturally, or did you have to train yourself into it?
Well, yes and no. So here's my origin story from a vantage point maybe you and I have never talked about. I was very lucky. 3 things happened that gave me this understanding, and it's a rare understanding. It really is. It's probably only a handful of people would in the whole world would think this way. So the first thing was I was trained in the mail order company or the mail order business, and they test everything. They change a headline, it can be 20 times more. They change a positioning, can be twice as good. They change how they prove something 3 times. It could change the call to action and how you do it. They change the risk reversal. They change the bonus. So I learned the variations make massive differences.
Yeah.
Then when I started, that was when I was just an intern. When I started doing this, I attracted a number of different clients. One was Deming. You know who Deming is, the father of process improvement, highest best use theory, optimization. He transformed the automobile industry, but certainly the Japanese one. And I learned his whole methodology. Then I did the number one multivariable testing organization in the world. They were paid $1 million minimum a client to test every kind of variable you want. They would test positioning, different cans on a shelf or different items on a shelf. How many SKUs? They would test it at eye level. They test it lower. They test it on end one. They would test sales approaches. They would test signage. They would test. They would test customer service actions that would either minimize or maximize returns or breakage. And I got to look at billions of dollars of that. Then I got to help the world's number one strategic litigation consulting firm. They help large law firms and corporations when they're involved in complex and very, very expensive $100 million type litigation. And they basically had, I think, 150 PhD sociologists and psychologists, and they had a whole graphics department that had the ability to shift how they position, almost like a forensic accountant, depending on whether they were the injured or the one or the injury or whatever you would call it. And I got to understand that you can depict pain and suffering one way. You can basically own the mindset of a court jury one way. If they're Southern and laid back, you can understand how to present to a judge who's hard-nosed or has a a prejudicial bent towards something. You can take pain and suffering and you can depict it to be outrageous with one set of graphics, or you can minimize it. Then, if you want to add complexity to this, when I became relatively prominent, I realized the power in all these knowledge-based understandings, particularly leverage in soft skills and intangible areas. So I made it a point that it was a known fact that any A caliber expert could get 2 hours with me for nothing, because in order for them to get what they wanted, they had to distill and summarize to me their body of work. And I did about 300 of them. And I can go on, but I mean, it's not what most people would have gone through. It's probably why I understand stuff at such a wildly diverse and kaleidoscopic level.
Yeah, you've been exposed to all those different opportunities there. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, but when you are, then you're on a mission and a crusade to tell business people, stop. Why would you possibly accept? A lot of people, they live in a world of assumption, what I would call it, almost a catatonic assumption. Mm-hmm. They just accept things as that's all they're going to get, or that's the only way to do it, or that's the only outcome that will occur, or there's no other alternative. I mean, I'll never forget this. This was very evident back in the dot-com era, back in the 2000s. I had somebody come to me and they said, "We're getting 20,000 visitors, whatever, it doesn't matter, day, week, month, and we're converting 1%. We want to figure out how to get 40,000." And I looked at him and said, "Why in the world would you possibly even ask that kind of a dumb question? Why wouldn't you first want to convert 2 or 3 or 5% of the 20,000?"
That's right.
Their whole thing was, we can't change it.
We can't change the percentage of the conversion, so we'll just get more. That's what we need. Yeah.
Well, I've told the story far too many times that we tested 33 ways of greeting somebody at the front door of a furniture store, and one of them tripled conversion and increased the average unit of sale. And I basically have changed a headline or the equivalent. The equivalent is what you say first. The equivalent is the signage. Yep. The equivalent is the subject line. The equivalent is the caption before and after. Here's just a little throwaway. Anybody that ever uses pictures, captions, graphs in anything they do, you need to tell people what they're going to learn from it or what it means, and then you have to summarize it another way at the bottom, because your perception that they get what it is intended to convey is delusional. They don't.
Right. Yeah, and it is amazing how that testing can bring all of that out as to whether or not they're going to buy more, leave, take longer to close.
Yeah, and we're getting to this. The subject line was non-technical breakthroughs, but here's what's so wonderful. So if you think about a life is filled with non-technical breakthrough leverage. Mm-hmm. You have a broom, that's a lever. You have a wheelbarrow. You have a screwdriver. Right. You have a light switch. You have a button to open your car. You go home and you want to have a beer. You have a pop-top can. You have a jack and so our lives are already demonstrable evidence of these multiplicative levers and non-technical breakthroughs that have enriched and continue to enrich our life. But there's 10 times that in business.
That's right. And this, my friend, is why we continue to have you on the show, because these are the kinds of breakthroughs that we need in our lives as business owners. So, Jay Abraham, thank you once again for joining me on the Strategic Edge with Jay Abraham. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Strategic Edge with Jay Abraham, exclusively on ASBN.